Hey there, this is Rob from Southgate Media Group. The following podcast was recorded during the SMG Podcast Marathon at Indy PopCon 2018 in Indianapolis, Indiana. This podcast marathon was 10 hours long and featured 19 podcasts covering a wide variety of geek-centric topics. Before we jump into the episode, I want to thank our amazing sponsors for this SMG Podcast Marathon. Without you, it would not have been nearly as cool. Links to our sponsors can be found in the show notes and at our website, southgatemediagroup.com. First of all, thank you to Tango Comics for the exceptional event poster. Thanks to our banner sponsors, Passionerdly Podcasts, Tome Travelers Podcast, Kinda Nerdy News with KJ Podcast, Movie Madness Podcast, Ed Maudlin and the Maudlin Realty Group, Very Dark, Very Quick Podcast, Advanced TV Herstory Podcast, Seriously? Let's Play Podcast, Dice Voyeurs Podcast, The Masks of Nythralothtop Podcast, The CritShow Podcast, The Amazing LARP, Chronicles of the Realm, Midnight Matinees Podcast, The Blue Box Café in Elgin, Illinois, Otherworld Theater in Chicago, Illinois, the This Week in Geek Podcast, live at the Blue Box Podcast, the Binge-worthy Podcast, and SMG Micro-Cons. A special thanks to the Bonus Hours Podcast Network for sponsoring our free charging station. There would have been a lot of dead devices without your support. And finally, thanks to the sponsors of our program, the Bonus Hours Podcast Network, featuring the podcast Between the Profound and Profane, Kinda Nerdy News with KJ, The Crit Show, an actual play podcast, Very Dark, Very Quick, the podcast, Passionerdly.com, featuring the podcasts Dice Voyeurs and Tome Travelers, the Kevin Long Show podcast, and finally, the upcoming book, Pod Life, Podcaster Stories. And there we go, the plugs are done. Enjoy the show.
Too Much Scrolling live at Indy PopCon. It's June 8th, 2018. I'm Steve Fodor.
I'm Chip Hessenflow.
Kyle Hickman.
And we are here at Indy PopCon talking about some of the more interesting things in the world, not any of that stuff that you'll see on CNN. Pop culture, that's the key to all of the things that we're talking about today. We got Kyle here. How's it going, Kyle?
I'm fantastic, Steve. Glad to be here.
Good to see you, man.
Let's talk about movies, man.
Let's talk about movies. Movies is one of the things that we talk about on Too Much Scrolling. We've got a movie of the week and a book of the week, but because we're here at Indy PopCon and because this is a special time of year, it's mid-year. We've seen half of the movies that are going to come out, and we're going to do something a little bit special today.
And we've known Kyle has seen all of these movies, too, so we've seen some of them.
I have some kind of life, a little bit of a life.
Okay.
Yeah. You have an idea of what's happening.
A little bit.
He's not that pasty white. He does get outside sometimes.
I'm single-handedly putting MoviePass out of business.
Excellent,
so,
excellent.
We're good.
MoviePass is that service where you pay $9.99 a month, and you can see a movie every day of the year for $9.99 a month. So you see a movie. How often do you use MoviePass?
I'm probably rocking 2 to 3 movies a week.
2 to 3 a week?
Yeah, it's not good for the company.
That company is just bleeding money at this point. They're losing something like $3 million a month, and half of that is for Kyle's MoviePass.
I appreciate them very much.
So we're going to do a fantasy movie draft. We're going to choose our favorites of
I'm wearing a veil.
2018 from all of the movies that have been released so far in 2018. Some of the rules are
I'm wearing some cologne.
2018
this
movies
is fantasy.
on IMDb. They have to say that they were released in 2018. No cheating on keeping the really good movies that were released that last day in December 2017 so they can get in for Oscar consideration. These are not Oscar-worthy movies.
I'm lighting candles as we speak, Steve. You said fantasy, right?
This is going to be our fantasy way of doing things. We're going to go one at a time. So if Kyle's going first...
Let me get the hot oil ready.
And Chip is going second, and I'll go third. If Kyle chooses a movie, it is off the board. You can't choose it, Chip, okay?
Excellent. I'll try to remember that.
Okay. So, Kyle, tell me, of the movies for the first half of 2018, what is your favorite title so far?
Well, since we're sticking with these rules,
Uh-huh.
we will not be talking about Joaquin Phoenix today, so we'll move on. Number 1, Tully.
Tully!
Have either one of you seen Tully?
I have not seen Tome.
I have not seen Tully, so you'll have to tell us why that's your favorite so far of 2018.
So Charlize Theron. So what I love about the movie, number 1, the trailer doesn't really give you anything. It just shows that there's a distressed mom who is struggling to maintain the home, and then a babysitter, a night nurse, shows up at the door, and that's the end of the trailer. So it doesn't really give you much.
Okay.
And then you go to the theater, and you start to learn a little bit more about what's going on once the night nurse comes. Now, this is one of those movies, I can't tell you too much without giving away the premise and why the movie's so fantastic. But it's very psychological in nature, and you find out... It's one of those films where what you think is going on is not going on at any point in the film.
Really?
So although you said none of these might be Oscar-worthy, Charlize Theron's very good in this film.
And you think Tully, thus far, is your favorite of the titles that
Made
have been
in
released?
2018.
It's made
yes.
in 2018.
There's some made in 2017s that have hit in 2018.
Yeah.
But Tully, for me, just artistically, I think, is...
Then
it
I will
deserves
see
top.
this. Then I will
Top.
see this because I looked at it and it looked interesting, but I had not.
It's not marketed very well.
Okay.
It intentionally doesn't give you much, but it's worth the 2 hours.
All right, Tully is off the board. Chip, what is your favorite movie of 2018 thus far?
Well, after he left Dunder Mifflin, he headed out to the woods with his wife, and it was A Quiet Place.
Quiet
my
Place.
number 2.
That's your number 2.
That was my number 2.
So he's
Off the board,
snaked
baby.
that
We're
off
moving on.
from your choice. I haven't seen A Quiet Place. I've heard great things. You've said some great things about it when we reviewed it on the show. Tell me again about A Quiet Place.
Well, there's really no sales of paper products at all involved in this.
These actors are
he's moved
actually
on.
actors that actually move on to other characters
Where was
sometimes.
Pam? Where was Pam during the whole film?
I don't know. I think they had a falling out, and at that point he got married to another woman, and they had children. It was about something strange happening in the woods, Steve. You had to be very quiet, and if you weren't quiet, the things would come get you. And it was a really, really good film. In fact, it did so well, and the response to it was so positive, they've already set up for a part 2. And I think this is the type of movie that we've been looking for because most of the other things I think we're going to be talking about, there's a follow-up to a movie, there's a real pop movie. I think this is the type of film that we've been looking for. So if Tully is great, I will see that. And I recommend, if you have not seen A Quiet Place, this is the movie to go see.
Kyle, you saw A Quiet Place.
Yes. John Krasinski's directorial debut.
That's
too.
right. And
Fantastic.
writing, too. He wrote it and directed it.
Is this while he was working at the paper company?
Well, they don't work much there, so it's a lot of sitting around and pretending like they're typing. But what I loved about that film, too, is just the film, like the theater experience, because it's dead quiet the entire time.
That
and you
is
can
the
hear
one
people
thing.
crumbling through their popcorn, and even the slightest cough, everyone's hypersensitive, like, shut up!
We live in an age where watching movies at home is so easy. Going to the theater is still an experience, and some people don't know how to go to the theater and watch a movie. The Quiet Place is the one that maybe people are doing it right.
I agree.
That is the one criticism that I've heard on other shows, better shows. I've heard on other shows, the one criticism of A Quiet Place is if you're in a theater with somebody who isn't playing along and
it's
isn't
gonna be
being
awful.
quiet, if they're being noisy, if there's a crying baby, it ruins the whole movie for you.
Yeah, you're hoping at that point the crying baby gets picked off by one of the creatures, right?
That's right.
Like, just come on, swing through.
At some point, the other thing is that the story moves forward. There's always something happening, and it has, it's not like these characters are going to, if they go, they're not coming back. So that's one of the other parts about it.
And what I love, just a few minutes in the movie, you get tragedy right away.
Yep.
Family tragedy.
Yeah.
No, kind of spoilers.
Kind of spoilers.
And a lot of
but
movies
it's at
don't
the
do that, and I appreciate the fact they just heartbreak
Do you call
almost
this a
immediately.
horror movie, or is this a suspense?
It's just
This is like a Twilight Zone type movie.
thriller, suspense.
Alfred Hitchcock?
Yeah, Hitchcock.
Hitchcock-ish?
Yeah, ish.
It's in there?
Ish.
It's hard to
Okay.
put anybody into that category,
Alright.
but ish.
For a directorial debut
Not
to
bad.
be compared to Alfred Hitchcock, that is pretty amazing.
Not bad.
All right, so I get to make my choice for my favorite
Mystery
movie
Science Theater?
of 2018. Yes, Mystery Science Theater is certainly on my list. If we were going on feature-length films in the theater, I'm going to go with the one that everybody assumes I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with my number one pick is Black Panther. This was a movie for 2018. This was just an amazing study in how Marvel can turn the corner and do something unexpected and have a wonderful film with a huge audience coming in. The audience for this was really the story. There were so many wonderful people coming to see this movie, maybe who had never been to another Marvel film. This goes to show how Marvel can make a movie that is a standalone movie that's actually good, as opposed to Solo.
You couldn't help yourself, could you?
I couldn't help myself.
help
I'm
yourself.
sorry. Solo is not a good movie when compared to Black Panther.
You know,
When
Chewie's going to
compared
show
to
up
Black
later
Panther.
on. Chewie's going to show up later on. I don't think you want to say that.
He'll
Chewie's
tear your
dangerous.
arm off.
He's dangerous. Flashback.
I think that Black Panther is so much a better film
Well,
than
I
Solo.
think you hit something there. Marvel is taking C-level characters
Mm-hmm.
and making, A-plus type movies. And they've created not just a character, they created a world. And they can explore that world. They could explore it in television shows. They could explore it in movies. They could explore it in written material. They have created and they also developed that next market for them. So this is probably Marvel's international character, not just
I agree
African
with you.
character, a true international character.
As opposed to Iron Fist.
Exactly, which they did such a marvelous
Danny
job.
Rand.
That was so bad. That Netflix series was not even good.
Steve, you make my eyes water.
Well, and the genius of Black Panther is it's designed to set you up for Infinity War.
Correct.
It's just another piece in the Marvel puzzle, but standalone.
A
It's a genius
standalone
film.
piece of a puzzle. That's amazing to be able to do
Mm-hmm.
that. There are not many studios that are doing something like that. Pick number 2. Kyle, what is your second favorite, marking out all the ones that we've already covered?
I'm going to go with Ready Player One.
Ready Player One. Okay, tell me why you love Ready Player One.
So I'll give the caveat.
And then everybody else in the room will say why they don't.
I didn't read the book.
You didn't read the book?
Didn't read the book.
Okay,
So
that's
there's
why
that
you like this
caveat.
movie.
I think visually it was
Uh-huh.
really good. I enjoyed a lot of the references in the film, and I think it was just fun. It was one of those you know what you're getting when you go into the theater, and it wasn't like Action Point where you're like, this is a waste of my hour and a half. I felt pretty good about Ready Player One, but I'm not a book nerd on that level, so I'm not
Okay.
comparing the two.
So, those of us who are book nerds and read Ready Player
Mm-hmm.
One 5 years ago, this movie pales in comparison to the book. But that's true of just about any film made from a book.
And it could have been a series as opposed to just a single
I
movie.
think it would have been a much better 6-hour Netflix series than an hour and a half, 2-hour movie. They took the heart out of the characters. The characters are so much more than what you saw on screen.
They just kind of show up and all of a sudden they're a group and you're going,
They're the best friends ever.
That's right. How did that happen? Well, it just happened.
Speed ahead.
The amount of time that it takes in the story for those top 5 to become the team that they are is wonderful. It's wonderful, good characterizations. Now, Ernest Cline's book is not great writing. It is not great sci-fi. It's just a pile of 80s references. But I'm all for a pile of 80s references.
I'm all about it.
I am a pile of 80s references.
That was a lot of fun. I had no problem with this film.
It was fun.
Spielberg-ish.
There were certainly...
And he also brought a playfulness that you weren't necessarily getting from the book.
The playfulness in the one scene
it.
that we
There's
can't
controversy here,
speak
folks.
of, it was wonderful. The playfulness in the movie within a movie is amazing. Like, everybody in my theater was making sounds when they saw the movie within a movie in Ready Player One. I don't know, can we spoil Ready Player One yet?
Yeah, I think you can.
Okay, The Shining is in Ready Player
Yeah, it's
One.
fantastic.
Which was not in the book.
It was not in the book, and The Shining is full of zombies, which is not The Shining. That's awesome.
But that's not the Shining book either. So the movie
I
and the
know.
book are different, so are you referencing the book or the movie?
The movie.
Now that we've ruined
the movie.
everything.
I already knew that these two were going to be on opposite ends of the spectrum,
sure.
just like they're on opposite ends of the table.
That's
and that's
right.
why I brought that one up, just to see. A little
That's
controversy. We
That's
can't agree
why
on
you're in the
everything.
middle, Kyle.
We can't agree on
Stuck
everything.
in the middle with you. All right, Chip, what is your
Steelers Wheel,
second
right?
pick?
Steve, I'm going with Mary Quimby's favorite movie of the year, Chappaquiddick. Chappaquiddick, yeah.
Chappaquiddick goes on your top 2 for 2018 so far.
Steve, it's a short year so far. I did my best.
That is one of the things that I want to talk about with this is we are looking at the beginning of the year. Best movies come out at the end of the year.
I think we brought out Ted Kennedy's most appealing characteristics in this movie. His ability to get away
With everything.
get away with everything.
With murder.
And run for president. I mean, why not? Let's go with it. And then you can
long
always
career.
use your
Mayor Quimby.
Massachusetts
I am going
accent
to
here.
go to the moon and do the other thing.
I am a jelly donut.
I wouldn't say
Banana.
it's top 3 for me, but I enjoyed Chappaquiddick.
Not top 3, though.
No, not top 3.
I have
It was
not
good.
seen this movie. Have you guys seen Chappaquiddick? Is this a movie that you guys have seen? There's one person is saying yes, everybody else is saying not so
Everyone
much.
else is like, I got better things to do with my
There's
life.
better things to do than Chappaquiddick.
Oh, there.
There's a lot of drama to it, right?
I did. I
there's a
enjoyed. I
characterization.
like the characters of it. I kind of liked revisiting. I mean, certainly I didn't like the tragedy that happened along the way there, but it really does show that on some level there's two worlds going on, and are you comfortable with that? And that I think that if maybe today that wouldn't be as easy to get away with. And when I say get away with it, I mean he really did just abandon the whole moment of that movie. I mean, of the
Do you guys
tragedy.
know the story
Oh, yeah.
of the tragedy of Ted Kennedy with the
The
idea
death?
that he was probably drunk driving and
Yeah.
a young lady died in his car as a result.
Somehow he got out and she didn't, and
He left.
He left.
He left and went to sleep for the night at a
And ran
at a
for
hotel, and then decided at that point maybe that point would be a good time
Yeah.
to call in the next morning.
Wow. Powerful. My second book nerd
cheat sheet.
choice
Yep.
for 2018 so far. That is the Wrinkle in Time adaptation from 2018. I think this was a really good adaptation of a wonderful book. We've discussed it several times on the show. We had Pam Bedore come on, our professor from Connecticut, to discuss all of the ideas of time travel and nostalgia. Back to your nostalgia point about
Sure.
Chappaquiddick. Nostalgia plays into movies so often. Back to your nostalgia point about Ready Player One. A Wrinkle in Time is a nostalgia piece for me. I remember reading it as a very young person. It's probably the first sci-fi book I ever read, probably the first time travel book I ever read, and I never looked back. I don't read anything else but sci-fi and time travel.
Now, Captain Kirk started this, right?
Chris Pine is in everything.
that's why we can't have nice
There's
things.
there's no movie without Chris Pine in it anymore. I think that's there's got to be a Chris.
Hemsworth, Pine. Yeah.
Right. This was a really good adaptation. Once again, this is a Disney title. We should be counting our Disney titles because
yeah.
we're up to at least 3 different Disney titles at this point for 2018. This was a good adaptation. I really, really highly suggest that anybody who has a young lady in their life, a 10-year-old girl, go see this movie. This is the movie for that crowd. There's so many great lessons in A Wrinkle in Time, and the adaptation does all of those lessons really well.
And for the age group that the movie was, what the book was written for. So that was one of the things that Pamela Bedore talked about, was that it was made for that demographic.
Right.
Because the book was made for that demographic, which is something that doesn't always happen with adaptations. They always want to throw something a little more adult, or something as a bone for the adults listening
And
or watching.
there is no bone for the adults in this. That is the one criticism that I've heard. That's what Pam Bedore actually told us, was there is no moment in A Wrinkle in Time that it's a wink to the adults in the room.
It's
It
targeted
is
for children.
just for a certain very specific demographic, and I think it does that very well.
Very nice.
Yep.
Kyle, you got a third one?
I do. Am I allowed to cheat a little bit?
I don't want you to cheat.
don't want me to
but-
cheat.
I don't want you to cheat, but
He's
go ahead.
cheating.
I'm going to
Go
cheat.
ahead.
Okay.
Do it.
So technically 2017, but dropped in 2018, The Death of Stalin.
Death of Stalin.
You like that?
Oh, love Death of Stalin.
Really?
All right.
Now,
Polit-
this is a comedy.
Political
the Death
satire.
of Stalin is a comedy. Tell us all about this one.
Political satire. I've been told, I haven't seen the film, but I'm told it's very similar to In the Loop from 2009. Another political satire. But Steve Buscemi and the crew, it's about the Stalin dies, essentially, and it's about the power grab with his inner circle of who's going to take over from that point in time. And it's just comedy of errors going on.
Kyle's just said he didn't watch that movie.
He said 2009. The 2009 movie to which it is compared.
I was talking to a bartender at the movie theater, and he said, "Oh, have you seen In the Loop?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's a lot like that." And so, but it was hailed as being a comedic movie, and I thought it met the expectations. It was really good. I enjoyed it.
All right, I'll take that. Chip, do you have a third one?
I do. I'm going with Game Night, Steve.
Game Night.
For 300.
Yes.
That's who I was going
Game Night is definitely on my top 5 for 2018. That is a really good movie.
Yes. What is a fun movie, Steve?
A fun movie is a movie that would make everybody in the room smile while they're watching it. And this movie accomplishes that.
Not too raunchy.
Not too raunchy.
Lots of fun twists.
You think that it's going to be way more raunchy than it is. It's not.
Real typical Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Ornery, annoying.
Watching him squirm. That's what we like about Jason Bateman, right? We just put him in a situation and watch him squirm.
I wouldn't use for Jason Bateman for me personally, but no, he's the same character in almost every movie. And it's that I'm annoyed and
try
dodgeball.
What's the Jason Bateman series?
Arrested Development.
Arrested Development.
No. The dramatic one that's on right now. Not Atlanta, but another location. Ozark. Ozark, I'm told, but I haven't seen it.
He's
Ozark is very much not a Jason Bateman character. He is a very different character.
He's moving on. Look at
Well,
him.
I felt
Expanding
this
his
was
horizons.
a wonderful adult date night type of film.
Great.
I thought it was light enough and poppy enough, and it's a fun time. A fun time will be had by all, Steve.
I think I completely agree with you.
Dropping the
I'm not
tagline
sure
on us.
that my 12-year-old would have as much fun with it. I think it's definitely for the adult part of the audience, and that.
Did you say it's an adult film,
I
Steve?
did not say it's an adult film. I said that it was not family friendly. That this is definitely about middle-aged people getting together and having conversations with each other on a date night, game night.
Steve, a lot of people would say that's foreshadowing because we have plans this evening.
Oh, that's right. It is game night tonight. We are going to gather together and play Werewolf is the name of the board game that we're going to be playing tonight.
I've got my costume, Steve.
Yeah, there, Wolf. There, Castle. I thought you wanted to. Yes, game night is a thing. We are going to gather together tonight and play some games and have some fun. That is what we are doing. It's gonna be great, man.
Steve, do you have another film?
I do. I have 2 more on my list, and I'm gonna go with the book nerd title. Do you sense a theme
There's
here?
a huge
There's a
theme
huge
there.
theme
Never-
here. My book nerd
Did
title.
you really?
Movie,
You're going with that one 50 Shades of Grey, aren't you?
50 Shades Freed.
That's right.
you know the title of
Dakota
that?
Johnson. I haven't seen it, but I've
I've heard about
I've
it.
suffered through the previews.
I've heard about it.
My third title is Annihilation, the
Oh, he did it.
adaptation of the book.
He did it,
This movie, I swear to God, there's something to it. We talked about
long
conversation.
We had this conversation.
Steve, the Methodist conference is meeting over there, and you just swore to God. My God.
My Lord, I swear to you that this movie means something. I don't know what it means.
Cancer.
But it means
It's about
something.
cancer.
I think it's about cancer. That's my best
That really
idea.
was a strange film.
Women's
It is-
empowerment and cancer.
It is a very strange film. It's a very strange book, so it adapted into a very strange film. But it's about something. I can't stop thinking about it. We had this conversation already when this film came out, and there's something there.
Sure.
I don't know what it is, and that really makes me interested in finding out what it is. And I think it's cancer. I think it's a story about cancer. I don't know if they're going to make any of the other books into movies.
How many are there?
There are 3. It's a trilogy.
Oh.
The Southern Reach trilogy. There are 3, and they could do all sorts of things.
Do we have time to continue?
I don't think we do. I think we are all out of time.
All right,
and
so-
we need
Next
to
one's
wrap
Deadpool.
this
We won't
up.
talk about it, but you know.
And I'm going to say that we've tried to go see How to Talk to Girls at Parties. There are actually 2 theaters in Chicago. 2 theaters in all of Chicago that have this movie.
Really?
No, it's
Lombard.
actually Lombard and Skokie.
And I contacted our movie reviewer in London and asked her if she's seen it, and she said the same thing. She can't find a showing of this movie in London either.
If it's going to be that difficult, why not just throw it through Netflix or Apple TV or Prime or something?
Seems like a kind of a movie that would do that. So
Why make a movie if it's
so
good?
that's it.
No one can watch it.
That's our fantasy draft for the first half of 2018. Good choices. We got some good movies out there.
I think it's time for us to light a cigarette, Steve. You said the fantasy's over.
Hopefully there'll be some better movies
Do you have your
in the
pants on
second
yet?
half of 2018. Maybe we'll come back and do this at the end of the year. Do our end of the
I'm
year
always down with
wrap up like we usually do and find our favorites of 2018.
And end of the year wrap. That's going to be awesome.
That's right.
We're going to go free school.
We've had a lot of fun.
Don't listen. It
We're here
will be
live
bad.
at Indy PopCon, having a lot of fun with the Southgate Media Group Podcast Marathon 2018. I want to thank everybody for being here and listening to us, and everybody who's listening on the recording that I'm going to put out later. It's been great. If you need more information, give us a call or a text. Our phone number is 805-4104-TMS. Our website is toomuchscrolling.com. Our email is toomuchscrolling@gmail.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. We're on iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn Radio. And every day of the week, you can go to our news site, news.toomuchscrolling.com. I think we have enough information to survive another week. What do you think, Chip?
Only if we can come back next week, Steve.
I think
or
we can.
tomorrow.
Or tomorrow. We're doing another show tomorrow at 10 a.m. So come to the podcast stage tomorrow morning, and we'll do another morning show. That's what we like, is morning shows. I want to thank you again for listening to Too Much Scrolling. I'm Steve Fodor.
I'm Chip Hessenflow.
Yeah, I'm Kyle Hickman.
We'll see you in the future.
You guys don't usually cue me in the last part.
Well, we did our best.
Special treatment. It's a special moment.
Oh, that was awesome. Well, I hope that was awesome.
I'm just surprised nobody picked the Cloverfield paradox. I mean,
Are we on time? Rock and roll, man.
For updates about upcoming SMG Podcast Marathons, follow us on Twitter at SMG Pods, on Facebook at Southgate Media Group, or go to our website and sign up for our email list at southgatemediagroup.com. Thanks again for listening.